Hello and welcome to Key Radio Live. It feels very weird saying that again.
It's been a while since it was just the two of us, hasn't it? It's been
a while since I've ever done the intro.
Yeah.
And of course, it had to be for a special episode.
Yeah, a very special last minute episode that we were just like, oh, wait, we have to do this as well.
We skipped Kaginato Season 2, which, by the way, was fantastic for those wondering. But
it was a lot of fun, and the ending was really sweet.
It's been a wild year for Key. A lot of stuff, so much stuff has happened. Like, this sort of just snuck up on us. Like, Prima Doll sort of coming out, and I'm like,
There's so much stuff that we have to do that we can't remember to cover everything. That's how much stuff we have at this point.
Like, it's sort of stressful because Reflection Blue's going up till like the end of August, and then Stella's coming out, which means we're gonna have to go like full Stella hype mode. Like,
yeah, and they're building that stuff up as well. Like, I recently learned that Delia is voiced by one of my favorite voice actresses, so I'm just like.
But no, Prima Dolls, yes. It's a show that sort of just snuck up on us. I mean, I was shocked when the anime was announced, and I was super excited, and all of a sudden I was like, yo, it's already July. And I'm like, what? It's definitely still March.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that it was announced, like, and the hype was huge. And then there was just so much stuff that was coming out that it just came out to the wayline, and by the time it was actually out, I completely did not expect it to come out. I was like, it's already here? I thought it would take more time. Like, is it seriously July now? And I checked the calendar, it's certainly July.
What is it? It's very funny seeing how everyone, like with Reflection Blue and Loopers getting translated and released finally, it's been weird because like that took all the attention, and then all of us looked at Prima Dolls and went, oh yeah, you were a thing.
It's here too. So yeah,
it was me too. Like I literally like saw the post and it was like airing, and I was like, oh
right, yeah, this is already here. So yeah, because we were so absorbed in the Summer Pocket type, especially because the translation has been so well received. So, but yeah, now we have another new-ish keyword. It's a new story for sure. A new keyword for everyone to enjoy. And whilst everyone hasn't watched it yet because it only streamed on Abema TV like a whole week earlier, me and Uttori have watched it in advance, and we won't be getting into any spoilers.
With commercials.
You watched it with commercial.
I was supporting those Japanese commercial enterprises.
The funding. Commercials are the worst thing to ever exist on the planet.
Actually weird because I might actually end up watching it with commercials anyways, because I know that like that has a lot to do with how well a show does in Japan. So if I can actually like legally watch the show, that's great. Like honestly.
That's fair. But yeah, essentially what happened is Abema TV streamed the first episode a week in advance. So technically it's actually meant to air in like 5 days from now. I don't know. My math is 8.
The 8th.
Yeah,
so
the 8th.
Like a day from now.
Oh, so it's 2. Oh my god, I cannot count.
Math was not mathing.
Okay, so yeah, it airs on Fridays. So essentially, it's gonna be up in 2 days for everyone, and it'll be subbed and everything. Because I'm pretty sure Sentai got the rights for it. I don't remember.
Yeah,
please
Sentai
fact check.
Rights.
Sentai Filmworks has the rights for it, so it's gonna be subbed, and you're gonna be able to watch it once it airs. But yeah, me and Uttori have watched in advance without subs because we can do that. We have infinite power, and we won't get into any spoilers. But we're here to essentially, we're here to set expectations and sort of talk about what the episode essentially was. And what we can look forward to.
Sort of like an addendum to your video that you did about Prima Dolls. Like,
yeah.
Hey, here's an introduction to Prima Doll now that the first episode of the anime is out. Like,
essentially. Yeah. Okay.
And for those who context, because Prima Dolls needs it.
Yeah.
Prima Doll is a key multimedia franchise similar to Angel Beats, but in this case, unlike Angel Beats, which was an anime first, this was a web novel that was released through Dengeki Magazine. And they would just get little segments, and that created a web novel in the end. And that's what we have on the website that you can read and listen to for free because they have voice acting added to the website version.
Web novels, toys, and well, not toys, figures, and music. You can buy all of those.
And music. And now a newly aired anime. The anime is done by Byberry Studio of Quintessential Quintuplets fame.
And they also did Azure Lane, but otherwise they're not the most well-known studio. However, we should note that the owner of Byberry is owned by Tensho, who is so he did the rewrite anime. Let's just get that out of the way first. He directed the rewrite anime, which is a bit controversial, but we should also note that he also directed the Summer Pockets anime, the anime opening. Yeah. And a lot of people also don't know this, but he also directed the rewrite visual novel opening as well. The animated one. But
yeah, he's worked
people don't.
Before. I will say, with all my issues of the rewrite anime, the direction of it, like the actual visual, like framing of it, regardless of budgetary issues that made it look like mediocre. The actual framing and like the direction of the shots, because that's all a director can do. Brilliant. Like there was never a shot where I was looking at it like, oh,
this looks wonky.
Yeah, like so in general, I think he's a good director. Prima Dolls has definitely upped my respect for him. Kai is doing the script writing, which for those who know Kai, that's always a good sign.
It's huge. It's really good sign. Okay. So one thing we should know is that Tensho is on really good terms with Key, so that is a big obvious reason as to why Byberry is here doing this anime. And honestly, I'm just gonna say this may be a really hot take. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, anime Key has made visually, because it is so pretty.
It's hard to say for me because I do have a soft spot for Canon 2006. But between those two, yeah, it's like a really close competition.
It's very pretty, and I think the main reason I love it as much as I do is something that there's one specific thing that I personally really like in my anime that I don't see a lot of studios take advantage of: lighting. Byberry nails lighting so well, and in episode 1 alone I was mesmerized by that. It looks so pretty.
There is never a flat frame.
There's never a flat frame. It's always beautifully lit in every way, every darkness, every piece of light. It's so pretty, and Tensho's directing really clearly shines when they actually have a budget to work with.
Yeah, the budget for this anime must be insane, and I really hope it's a success because I've told Lucia this. I think this is a testing run. I think this might be the next KyoAni style key member partnership where Byberry ends up doing the adaptations.
Yeah.
If Prima Doll is successful as an anime, if that is the case, then we're probably going to see a Summer Pockets anime by them. And if we do, I hope Tensho is right on the director's chair, because God, Tori Shiojima would look beautiful.
Yes, I fully agree, because as I said before, Tensho is on really good terms with Key. Like the staff and him are good friends, so having someone who cares about the people working on the original stories would very much make for a much better chance at having a great anime, especially since this guy owns the company. He's not restricted by any budgetary or working as a team anymore. He is owning Byberry, and he's here to give his full to make a great show if possible. And I am looking forward to Prima Doll, because that first episode is really, in my opinion, it's a fantastic first impression.
To talk about the first impressions, actually, I have a lot to say. First of all, that opening scene that all of y'all will be able to see in a couple days has me with many questions, because it introduces an entirely new character to the cast that we didn't know was going to exist, period. did not appear in the PVs, did not appear in any of the promotional material, definitely didn't appear in the web novel. So I'm over here like, who is this? What's her story?
Yeah. Okay, we did forget to gloss over one thing, is that we don't know if this will connect to the web novel, if at all. It probably won't. Yeah, and I have mentioned that, because the thing is, it was first announced, I made a video and I brought a lot of attention that this could be an adaptation. It very much isn't.
It definitely.
It definitely isn't. The thing is, I thought that a certain character in a PV that wasn't brought to focus could have been the main character of the web novel, which is a character called Usami. She's not. She's an entirely new character that just so happens to have a very similar hair color and hairstyle.
Now, I do have a personal running theory. This could be a prelude to the web novel. And there's a lot of evidence supporting this, and one of them being that Prima Doll's anime takes place while the war is still actively going on. Meanwhile, the web novel takes place after the war is all over.
That's also what I was thinking.
Timeline-wise, Usami is already in China because she was sent over to China as a baby, and she is currently in a slave master's house that she'll be able to, and then eventually in the web novel she moves back to Japan. That's like the whole thing, and she's dirt poor.
Yeah, and we just casually dropped the fact that she used to be in the slave master's house. That's just
yeah, it's just, well, because I think we also need to bring up Prima Dolls technically canonically takes place in a similar era to World War I Japan. So that is something to keep in mind. This is basically World War I Japan without the World War I and just mecha dolls fighting each other. Yeah. So, like, the technology of this era reflects that. I think the closest era comparison would be Demon Slayer or Sakura Wars.
It's the area of the Imperial capital. I'd say it's like a Taito aesthetic. I'm not sure.
That's about right.
Yeah.
I always just say it's around the same era of Demon Slayer, except Demon Slayer takes place after World War I.
It's a very popular setting for a lot of Japanese fiction, but it's not as big in the West, I've noticed. Like, it's very much a Japanese loves these types of things.
I think it's because it's a callback to, like, an era that was economically rough, so, like, it's fun to make stories there because there's a lot of reason for conflict to exist. So for context, as of right now, what we know outside of the anime is that Prima Dolls takes place after the war. We know that we're at some point in the middle of the timeline that we were given for the web novel, because in the web novel there was the bunny automaton doll that was made, then the first girl-looking automaton, then there was the first Mechanica doll, which is the fully it was Mechanica, then automaton. Automaton dolls are the ones that are fully cognizant. So they're the ones that can think, cry, feel emotions. Like,
they're essentially the actual characters. They're the robots.
Actual characters.
All the ones we know are those types of dolls.
The reason that this is important is because the war starts sometime in the middle of the timeline. So we know the war has been going on for some time, but the war is also not over. And when the war is over, there is what is called a economic recession. Like, there is a massive recession that brings pretty much everyone to their knees, and it's the reason why the Black Cat Cafe robots have to stick together, because otherwise they literally cannot financially stay afloat.
Yeah.
So right now the Black Cat Cafe is looking quite well off, and all the characters are together, but we need to find out how we're gonna get to the point where not everyone is there and, like, they were separated, and how they get to come back together in the web novel, which is what we see. So if we get to see that, I'm actually really excited for this, because that means it'll actually fit really well into one season.
Judging from the trailer, that seems to be a future plot point.
Yeah. I'm very curious about where they're going to take the character of Haizakura, though, because in the web novel, we get a different backstory to her than what we're seeing right now. And it's very weird, because there's certain things that I'm looking at, like, this is inconsistent with the web novel, but also consistent lore-wise, and I'm concerned because I want Haizakura's backstory to come up in this anime, because it was one of the more touching parts of it. I hope we actually get to see it happen live. And for context, the web novel is officially not finished. They said that there is more content coming, probably, I'm assuming, after the anime.
Yeah, the thing is, we haven't actually gotten a lot of content ever since the anime was announced. Like, they
because
just
they're
sort of put
going
on
full
pause.
marketing mode.
Yeah, they went full anime marketing mode. But yeah, the thing about the Prima Doll anime is that it seems to be an origin story of sorts, but at the same
Yeah.
time, a lot of uh, the anime doesn't exactly explore a lot of these characters yet. Like, it's very much, it assumes that you're just going to know these faces, and they give you the names, but we don't really see a lot of these characters outside of Haizakura. And
It shows us a lot of these characters like just on a very surface level, and I think that they're sort of assuming that you're going in with some basic knowledge of tropes. Like the thing
yeah,
is, with Karasuba, you can clearly tell she's a tsundere. Hoshibuki hasn't even gotten a chance to speak.
Hokiboshi, okay, I mentioned this before, but I'm wondering if something's wrong with her voice. Because
The thing is, that is a plot point in the web novel at some point
yeah,
where it's like she's super happy to be able to sing, so I have a feeling we're gonna
yeah,
see.
like her character in the description said that she loves singing for a certain reason, and the trailer also does bring to attention to the fact that eventually she does get to sing. But
Mhm.
in the first episode, to everyone's surprise, because no one knew this, she doesn't say a word. She does a Mio. She talks via notepad.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if there's something wrong with her voice currently.
I do really think so. The interesting thing is the shocking lack of Retzel.
Yeah, Retzel is not here at all. I'm
She,
wondering if she's gonna come later.
I am wondering, and I'm very curious because her character is sort of a interesting one.
It's hard to talk about her without getting into spoilers.
Because yeah, she is a spoiler character. Like the entirety of her story is a spoiler.
Yeah, and I feel like
it's kinda hard to
Retzel's
talk
very
about the entirety of the
existence.
first episode of the anime as
Mhm.
well without spoilers, because the thing is, the anime takes no time to like do anything but go.
Yeah.
It's like
The,
here you go.
the way I described it is okay. So this is an episode that is immediately here to give an impression that's self-contained entirely in itself. It is its own episodic story, one that can likely be separated from the rest of Prima Doll, but it has to do that while introducing every character that is and will be shown in the future, as well as the world we are in. We are introduced to the Black Cat Cafe. We're introduced to the hierarchy, how it works, what these dolls do, what their jobs are. So yeah, it really doesn't waste any time, which is why it doesn't actually introduce a lot of these characters outside of Haizakura, who is essentially the only doll that gets any true screen time currently. It's because they went through a lot.
Surrogate.
Yeah, which is really surprising because, okay, as I said before in the web novel, the main character is actually a character called Usami, and she's essentially meant to be the audience surrogate, and Haizakura is more of like a typical heroine. She's like by your side. But for Prima Doll, there is no Usami, and instead it's Haizakura who acts as the main character and the person who is the one you see like the world through their eyes. So it's kind of like how do I describe it? It's like if the protagonist was the like a heroine like Nagisa. Like imagine Clannad without Tomoya, that Nagisa was the main character instead. It's
Yeah.
sort of like that.
I'm definitely going to be interested to see where they go from here, because the first episode sort of has its own narrative arc that opens and closes right there, and it doesn't really end on a cliffhanger for you to really like cling on to for next week, which is an interesting direction to go, because I was really expecting like there to be a lot more mystery, but I also liked it because it establishes one thing: this war is not all fun and games. That is the biggest takeaway from episode 1, is that there are genuine sacrifices that have been made in this war, and you feel it. These characters feel it, and people suffer because of it.
Yeah, like even bystanders that feel like they don't deserve anything to happen, but that's just war in it. It's never really nice. And we're also shown some certain details about new characters that we don't know anything about. Like, there were certain things revealed about Haizakura that caught me completely off guard.
Yeah, I looked at that and went, what?
Yeah, like, no,
Like
they
Kaizakura, are you okay?
like no one knew this was gonna come. They didn't show this in the trailer. They didn't show it in any of the web novels. It's a completely new factor that caught basically everyone off guard. No one expected it.
The only reason I'm shocked is primarily because of the fact that, like, I knew this feature existed in these dolls because Karasuba's story, like, alluded to it in the web novel. I just didn't realize that it was something that any doll could do. I'm just like,
Yeah.
huh. I was like, whoa, this is what, like, this completely recontextualized my perception of all of these dolls. I'm like, huh. Okay. Speaking of things that shocked me, the soundtrack. My God, this soundtrack is so good. Like,
It's so good. Okay.
I mean, it's Shinji Orito. Of course, it's gonna be good, and Manyo. Like, but those two together are like a godsend when it comes to
They are chef's kiss. And the thing is, Prima Doll is a show that already has pre-established music. Like, well, as we said before, like, it's a multimedia project, and part of it was selling music. Like, the first thing Prima Doll revealed was a hymn that the main characters also
machines.
Hymn for Machines, yeah.
Which
and that pays off in the actual show. There's a reference to that, and there's also
it's
like,
actually
we also
a motif in the OST. You hear it like twice in the
exactly.
OST in two completely separate OSTs. You hear that melody, the bum, 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 bum,
yeah.
bum, bum.
So it's one of those little things that if you're new to the anime, you're gonna enjoy the OST in itself. But if you're someone who has caught up with Prima Doll as a whole, including the toys, including the music, including the stories, you're gonna get those little details, and it's just like those little Easter eggs that add a bit of spice to people who have been spending a lot of time.
You for being caught up, but it's definitely like, I think this is gonna be the gateway for a lot of people, much like the gateway. Angel Beats' multimedia franchise was the anime. This is gonna be the exact same.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if they repackaged the web novel as a series of light novels after this. That way people can more easily buy it.
I would really love that. And the potential, the sky's the limit here, because they're putting a lot of this. They're putting, what I want to say, like, right off the bat, is that this episode was a really, really great first impression. Like, okay, I don't want to rag on any of the anime original trilogy too much, but personally, those first episodes are very hit or miss for me. Like, they're either too much into the action or not enough happens. But I feel like this is the perfect balance where you're intrigued enough, but also get a satisfying package on its own that is like a mission statement. Like, this is what this show is. This is what we can do with the visuals. This is how the atmosphere, and these are the familiar music that you've grown accustomed to if you've been keeping up. And we're gonna show you what we can do. And once we actually get into a longer running story, hopefully you will enjoy it. Like, that's what the impression I get.
I must admit, it's very weird seeing this become an anime, because Prima Doll was the thing where I looked at it and went, oh, they're just making a line of dolls. Nothing's going to come from this. And it's really becoming something that I feel is going to be an interesting long-term project. I can already call it. I can typically tell where stuff is going to rank in my key stuff based off of existing media or first episodes of stuff. This is gonna rank somewhere in the middle for me for key, but that's not a bad thing. The middle for key is still like 9 out of 10 stuff. Like, the first episode I rated like an 8 out of 10 overall, which isn't bad. It's just I'm not also not a huge moe person, so Prima Dolls is never gonna be my target demographic, like, overall, because I'm just not into cute girls doing cute things. It's like a genre of show, even if they are at war.
And I enjoy seeing cute girls doing cute things. But one thing I want to know is that what you'd expect Prima Dolls, at least I expect Prima Dolls, is that it's gonna be 70% cute girls doing cute things and 30% pain, because that was what the web novel was.
Mhm.
But I'd actually argue this first episode is the opposite.
It's 50.
I'd say it's mostly 50-50 only because of Haizakura.
Yes.
It's because Haizakura is the protagonist and she is by nature a very, very moe character. But
she is a beam of sunlight in what is otherwise a pretty rough episode plot-wise
Yes.
because it touches on some pretty upsetting topics.
it gets kind of depressing at times. Yeah, that's
I'm
the thing.
shocked
Like
at how sad it got.
Yeah, like, okay, I don't want to like overhype and say it is going to be the saddest thing you've ever watched, because again, this is one episode and it's not just being a self
grave once.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one episode and it's not going to be just this self-contained story. This is also an introduction. This is like the quote-unquote story takes for like 15 minutes of the 25-minute runtime. It's not everything. And for 15 minutes, you can only do so much for characters that you've probably never seen before.
It's really hard for me to like talk about it because I generally really like the episode, but like it's hard to talk about why. So I think what'll be good is, especially after this episode, we do a circle back with Lucia about his opinion as what is going to be an anime only. Because I definitely want to hear the opinion of anime onlys in regards to Prima Dolls. Because it's weird, because I have context. I have a lot of context. I've got all the lore. I want to hear it from the impression of someone who knows basically nothing.
Yeah, and I'm less in the know, but even then, I've read up to Haizakura's story. So I have read this story and I know these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I consider myself a fan, so I've yet to see this kind of story be received by someone who's unfamiliar with these faces and whose first impressions are going to be molded by the anime.
It'll be interesting because I have a feeling it's going to go one of two ways. There's going to be a lot of people that are going, whoa, this went way too fast for me for a first episode, because it's going to be hard to get attached to these brand new characters that have a completely self-isolated story within this episode. But
yeah, I fully agree with that. I definitely think some people are going to look at this one episode and go, this isn't enough for like an emotional attachment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, go on.
Or people are going to really like it because they were expecting just moe slice of life and they're getting something different.
Yeah, and that's me.
So, but here's what I'll say about this first episode in terms of tampering expectations. I foresee that the first half of the show is going to feel a lot like Violet Evergarden, in the sense that rather than a lot of the main cast being actively involved in the stories of these, like, of the war and the characters themselves, because the war hasn't really hit the Black Cat Cafe yet, I think we're going to see a lot of people who are affected by the war coming to the Black Cat Cafe, and much like Violet Evergarden, you're going to hear their story. I mean this in a good way, though, because I have my fair share of critiques in Violet Evergarden, but I do say I think it'll work out well in Prima Dolls. Lucia's Violet Evergarden kind of mid. Let me just say it would work out well in Prima Dolls because there's a more likely excuse for someone to know this, and it's because they run a bar.
One thing I will say is both of these shows seem to be having some sort of episodic element, because Violet Evergarden is like an episodic, let's hear your issue and how this character will support you through this one episode. It's episodic. And I think Prima Doll is going to generally be episodic, with the exception of a specific plot point. I doubt there'll be an overarching plot in the first half, but there's likely going to be one in the second half. In a sense, it's similar to Kami-sama Day in that way.
I think what's going to happen is we're going to get... So remember that scene at the start that I can't really talk about? I think we're going to get one of those scenes at the start of every episode in the first half, and that's going to lead to the catalyst event of the second half. Because the thing is, I can tell they're trying to go for an overarching plot, but they're also trying to remain episodic. That way you can sort of get a taste of what's going on. Let me put it this way. If this were a visual novel, the best way I could describe it is this feels like it's going to be a lot like Valhalla, where every day these characters are going to come in, complain about something that's happening in their life, and these characters are going to be touched by it, but these characters are probably not going to leave the Black Cat Cafe for the large majority of it.
Yeah, I can fully agree with that. It's not gonna directly involve these characters until it does later on, but there is something happening outside of the Black Cat Cafe that none of us know anything about yet.
I think I think an interesting way that I think this show could do it is it's definitely got the vibe of like Sakura, she's not involved with this war yet, but she's sort of like, oh well, the Black Cat Cafe is like a safe place. And like it's like that vibe that during like World War I and II, where it's like, oh, the war will never hit us. Like even like whenever the war was actively happening, you had a lot of people both in Japan and America going, oh, it'll never hit this small town or this small area. And then it does. I think that's what's gonna hit really hard, is that realization from the entirety of the cast that no one's ever truly safe in war.
Yeah.
I think that's what this first episode was really hammering down, is that war is unfair and a lot of good people suffer because of it.
Yeah, I'm not, as I said, it's not enough to like say it's one of the most emotional stories ever made, because again, it was very much something that was made in 15 minutes. It's a self-contained little story, but it left an impression. And it's not something that, while it gets concluded, it's not like something that leaves, like, it's not like something that gets wrapped up in a little bow. It makes you think a bit.
I think the best way to describe it is, while it's not the most emotional story, it'll be no, it will not wreck you like that. I think the best way to describe it is this story is self-contained within 15 minutes, but within that 15 minutes, it leaves a very clear tone for one of the major themes of this, which is war is unfair and people suffer because of it. And sometimes people that need their innocence protected will have their innocence shattered at the cost of some pointless battle. And I think that's the biggest lasting impression, is that this is not supposed to be fun. These characters are fun. These people are very nice. They're like a ray of sunshine in what is otherwise a very tonally bleak moment, where you're just sitting there like, I'm not satisfied. But you're not supposed to be. Like, I was sitting there at the end feeling like I didn't like that. Like, I didn't like the way that ended. That's the point. Like, that was the point. You weren't supposed to be happy. No one in that room was happy when that happened. It wasn't presenting it as if it was happy. It was presenting it as just a tragedy of war. And I think that's what's interesting about this, is you're going to have this juxtaposition of these innocent characters.
These really cute moe characters having to deal with some really, really sad stuff and how they react.
Yeah, these innocent characters having to deal with the reality that sometimes life isn't all bubblegum and rainbows.
I'm really excited to see how certain characters react to this, like especially since Sakura is our main character and she's basically a sugar cube. she's a
sugar cube done right, though. I will admit that, because I'll admit I have made a fair share of comments towards sugar cube characters before.
Very recently, especially. But yeah, Sakura is basically that kind of like innocent hope. Sakura isn't.
No, she is not dumb.
I wouldn't say she's dumb. She's just clumsy.
She's very clumsy, and like, most of her obliviousness comes from the fact that she is just very new. Like, she's
innocent. She's very innocent and naive.
Yeah, she's very innocent, naive, but she's not like so like blissfully unaware that it's like, okay, no, there's no way. I think the best way to describe it is when, okay, if you told Samugi something was going to happen from Summer Pockets that was really sad, she'd go, oh no. Anyways, in the case of Sakura, she's like, oh no, I'll take note of that and remember that for later. So it's like, she's cute, but she's not oblivious. Like, she and most of her ignorance comes from like the idea of, oh, I'm just new. She just woke up, and like she has very fuzzy memories. Like she's over here like, I don't know really who I am yet. So she's just over here like, I'm just gonna react to everything and be like, I'm new here, please.
She's doing her best. She's doing her best.
It's a type of thing where like she's very cinnamon roll, like just very she's very much
She's a cinnamon roll that I can't help but think Kai is going to break.
I'm not looking forward to it, but I also am.
I fully expect Kai to break her into pieces.
Maybe literally, but definitely.
No, please don't. No, please don't.
Oh, everyone was upset at me for that comment. No one liked that.
No one liked that. I mean, to be fair, if our theory is correct, then we'll know that she'll be fine by the end of it.
Yes.
Because we do know that. Because okay, here's the main thing: is that in the anime so far, she's basically a cinnamon roll, but in the web novel, as we know, she's still cheerful and kind, but she's hiding damage. We know that in the web novel that she's hiding damage.
She uses the Black Cat Cafe and thus her friendship with Usagi as a coping mechanism to basically try and forget about it, but it does resurface.
Yeah, we know all of the characters, like by now, because of the web novel, that all these characters are dealing with stuff inside, they just don't show it. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but feel this anime is gonna show exactly what kind of damage they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's like, I have a feeling like if the web novel had the little dinky knife that Phil Swift was using in the Flex Tape commercial to like get the bucket to leak, this anime is gonna be the chainsaw, where he's like,
how about a little more?
How about a little more? Right into our hearts.
Yeah, since Kai's working on it, I have a lot of faith because
Kai has for us. He's like
Kai has. I'm really because there's gonna be also Kai's first like anime project. Yeah, so I'm really curious to see how he fares.
Oh yeah, I said before. The moe that I was really expecting. I was like over here like expecting episode 1 to be
like,
just
I was expecting Gochi Uso for like 70% of it because that's what it's like in the web novel.
Yeah, I was just expecting
there was none this episode. It was just Haizakura. Without Haizakura, this would be a very bleak episode.
There's a lot of emote material though from Haizakura. Like I just gotta say, there like quite a few of her expressions are absolutely priceless.
Oh my god, yes. Haizakura is one of the most emotive characters I've seen animated. Like the anime format fits her so well. She's so adorable.
She's got the exaggerated manga expressions, which I'm so happy for because key anime typically lack that sometimes, and I'm here for it. It makes Haizakura absolutely hilarious.
I'm very it's so it looks so good, and I cannot keep saying it. Biburi has nailed the visuals of this way more than I expected. Like this is by far Biburi's best looking work, and I'm saying this as someone who
the trailer was going to be indicative of like the only pretty looking moments. Like they put all the budget into stuff that was going to appear in the trailer.
Yeah, you'd think that's what a lot of people were thinking, but no, the anime is consistently pretty. Like it's so pretty.
Also, we get new Naga art at the end of this episode, so keep an eye out for that.
We get new Naga art, so I hope everyone enjoys that because it's really good.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
I think this anime is definitely worth
get into. Like that's all we can get into though. Like this episode, I think we should reconvene next week with Lucia to talk about it again.
Yeah, definitely. Like after everyone's seen it, because let's be real. At this point, once it airs, hopefully everyone's seen it at that point. I can't wait.
I'm very
I need to let it out.
It's gonna be it's gonna make my Fridays all the nicer.
I don't know if we'll do it consistently, to be fair, especially since we're doing the Summer Pockets podcast, but once in a while, I think
we'll do one for like the actual first episode air date and then one at the end for final impressions, and then
right, yeah, makes sense.
We also need to do a Kaginato episode at some point. We need to talk about Kaginato, because I do want to say that Kaginato has now gone from amalgamation of keyworks to its own keywork in its own right. I think it has earned that spot as like its own unique identity.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, especially because now it has a manga.
God, I wish that manga was translated so bad.
It's funny.
I hear it's from some people that they actually prefer it to the anime.
It's because it's almost like indicative of Lucky Star's 4 Coma style, which fits Kaginato really well. So
Yeah.
like it's very funny. But anyways, that's been the episode. We hope you look forward to Prima Dolls, and yeah, share your impressions once it comes out. See you all next time. Bye.